Samia, Suluhu, Hassan for convening us here. Thank you for the energy, and also thank you for all the heads of states that are with us today for honoring us with your presence. I also just came from Nairobi. President Ruto, thank you for your very inspiring speech. I remember youth, opportunities, and finance. Really exciting. For me, it's to be here in Africa and also see the opportunities, see the young people. Your motivation is so exciting. And the good news is, we're very close to COP28. It's less than 90 days until COP28 happens. And we have put food systems transformation of you, because it's been through consultations with you, momentum building, that we have been able to put food systems transformation on the center stage with the renewables and all the other subjects that usually come up on the climate agenda. So thank you, Agnes. Announced the COP28 Food Systems and Agriculture Agenda, which was done in Rome at the Food Systems +2 Summit. And this is really exciting because it gives all of you now a kind of framework, a northern star, to come together and put all the initiatives that we've already announced before and kind of bring in new ones on 4 pillars. One is galvanizing national leadership, and this is where I ask all the heads of states that are with us today. We'll be sending out to you the Emirates Declaration on Food Systems Transformation. Please join in. The more we get on board, the more momentum we can build for food systems transformation. Then the second is about non-state actors. How can we enable or empower non-state actors? Because governments cannot solve this alone. We're a scarce country. We have around 4 to 5 days of rainfall in the year. We don't have rivers. And so for us, we really had to think of how can we grow food in the desert? And we've looked at innovation. And it's with lots of partners that we have, with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, with the research institutes that we've talked to, Rockefeller, and many, many partners that we've done. Aim for Climate, as you know, with the US, we've been leading this, 500 partners, $13 billion in commitments. We invite you all to join in Aim for Climate. We invite you also to join in another platform we've done, which is the Mangrove Alliance for Climate. These are really important to share knowledge, look at technologies, look at lessons learned, because we know that we have another 7 years until 2030. The time is ticking. We can only do this if we all do this together. So another thing you've probably seen, and President Ruto, this was at your African Climate Summit, and congratulations for the first summit. The UAE has committed $4.5 billion for Africa for the renewable energy ramp up, because we want to treble the capacity until 2030. So I'm building also this kind of momentum as well on the food systems transformation. I cannot do this alone. I need all of you in this with me, and I know together we'll be able to really take this to a new level, because we really have to course correct from where we are today. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And that announcement you mentioned, the $4.5 billion committed at the Africa Climate Summit in Nairobi, is the biggest of all the announcements we saw at the summit, which is obviously a big boost for Africa. I just want to touch on something you said, that you put food systems transformation at the heart of COP28. What's in it for us from Africa?
Okay, so now that we have the agenda, I would like all the African nations to come on board on the declaration. This is number one. We have introduced a youth champion to the COP process. And I know she's been also in Nairobi. She's been doing a lot of visits. She's been talking to the youth to try and get them on board, get their inspirations on board. We need to see, or let's say the youth of the world need to see the opportunities that you have here in Africa. And of course, the innovation side. Please come into platforms such as Aim for Climate, because this is where you will see innovations. I myself, every time I go and I see, so we kind of convene once a year, we do a ministerial for Aim for Climate partners, and this is where we showcase innovations as well. and I've seen things that I never thought existed. And when you start seeing there are solutions out there, we don't have to create anything new. Solutions are out there. We just need to get them to the right people, get the financing fixed, and scale up. And there's so much opportunity because I feel the passion is there, the will is there, and we're understanding that we have to fix this. And by the way, if I can just add one more thing. The whole situation we're in with food systems, it's not just about agriculture. It's about us as human beings. We are pulling at the food systems. We are choosing our food when we go to the supermarket, what we buy, what we put in the rubbish bins. We have to also play our role, and we have to be responsible for what we do. We cannot just keep pointing fingers at farmers. And by the way, I want to say, for any farmers that are in the room or listening to us today, we thank you. We thank you for all that you do. I think more has to be done to thank the farmers and recognize them. They're not having an easy job at all. We went through a whole revolution of when it was about quantity to try and get poverty up out of the dark hole, to try and get food to the mouths of people. And now we're saying, no, this is the carbon footprint, we need to lower it, we need to lower it. So I first want to say thank you to all the farmers out there. We need to work beside you, and we need to also, each and every one of us in this room, including myself, we need to reflect a little bit how we are pulling on the food system.
All right, I'll come back to fixing financing in a second, but I wanted to ask Geraldine as well on that topic, because you were talking about this lives and dies on adaptation, and we're just not seeing enough funding coming for that to, support farmers, to support people who are suffering the brunt of the climate crisis.
It is true we don't see sufficient financing coming into agriculture, and especially for the rural small-scale farmers. As I said, it's only 1.7% of the climate finances that reach the small-scale farmers. And we have been observing on African continent, on Asia and South America, when the floods comes, it means people are dying. When drought comes, it means people are dying. And it's been really, when you look at it, IFAD, we have a fund, a finance that we call adaptation of small-scale farmers to climate change. It is only that money that you see reaching the small-scale farmers. Then it becomes important that we, as the minister has mentioned, it's not about anyone, it's not about the earth, it's about us. How come we say that 60%, 70% of our African population is employed in agriculture? Our economies are depending on agriculture at over 40%. But when it comes to climate money, it doesn't go into agriculture. So before we do anything else, we should be looking at what are we trading? What are we transporting? I mean, I used to be the Minister of Agriculture in my country, and when my bosses were going to the parliament to report on transportation, they will carry me around. When they go to report on trade, they carry me around. And one time I say, so why are you taking me? And they say, oh, the transport is about food. The trade is about food. How can we leave you behind? So it's really important that we start looking at what is needed, and we say like, okay, it's not about transport, it's not about cars, it's about us. And it's really important that we be kind of selfish. All of us, we eat. So where do we feel like the food is coming from? We leave it to these poor people who do not have any means of growing food, and at the end of the day, we go to them to give the food. So it's really important that we start looking at it and say, these people are producing 70% of our food, therefore, They are making the third of our economy. Therefore, let's target them, let's finance them, let's support them to feed us. So to us, as the IFAD, we are working toward that, but we really need to be having other finances to join and be able to deliver for the small-scale farmers.
Thank you. President Hassan, in her speech, talked about Tanzania's ambition to be a grower and an exporter of food, and she talked about
because that is actually what you need to do any transformation. I'm going to give you an example in our own country. As I said, water-scarce country, desert environments, but then we looked at innovations and we looked at things like how we can grow food and recirculate the water. How can we grow food not outside the cities, but in the cities? How can we get young people, and by the way, when I tell young people about becoming a farmer, their faces change, and it's not very positive.
It doesn't look good on TikTok.
No, but then if I tell them, how about becoming an agro-technologist? That's actually cool. They like that, and then they start asking more questions. And then imagine bringing the young people, making sure they're in the cities, they can use warehouses, they can use old storage facilities, and this is what's happened in the UAE. So it's really important that countries enable the policy frameworks are made so that you can then enable the financing, unlock the financing, and bring in. And then it's the off-takers that's really important. Having the right off-takers. And by the way, you always have to think outside the box when it comes to financing. Why are we here today? Why is climate finance such a big deal? It's because it's so hard to unlock. Making sure finance is available, accessible, and affordable is so difficult. But I tell you, and of course I'm working alongside our COP28 President-designate, Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber. He is working on this financing track and making sure it's going to happen. He wants to make sure that the $100 billion is committed, something we've been waiting for many years. So he's really driving to make sure that promises are kept, to unlock as much finance as possible. He managed this now with the renewable energy, and we want to do more on many other subjects. So this will come along, but again, the right ecosystem needs to be there to unlock the financing. We've gone through it ourselves in the UAE. We've been on a journey to decarbonize our economy and also make sure that we're unlocking finance from the private sector as well to our net zero pathway growth. So it's not easy, but it's a whole sync of many factors that need to take place.
All right, thank you. And finally, Geraldine, you've got all the stakeholders involved in this journey to try and transform the food systems and find the financing, find the money for it. What's your word for them? You get the final word.
I think I have said it before. We are attending the Africa Food System Transformation Forum, but I think it's equivalent to their other forums as well. It's really important that we think that climate finance, food system transformation finance, it's not because of agriculture. It's because of us as people, as the minister has mentioned. And it's really critical that we unlock the financing for those people who are consistently struggling to put the food on our plate while we are doing other things. So that's my core. Thank you.
All right, we're going to leave it there. A big round of applause for the Honorable Minister and Geraldine from IFAD. Thank you so much. We are now just about ready to hear from the leaders. But as I said, we're Africans. We like to dance. We like music. So one final performance. Please put your hands together for Remy Mbao. Karibu sana, karibuni sana.
Afrika simama, tuungane pamoja, tuishi bara letu na kufuta vifo. Viongozi wa Afrika, tuungane pamoja. tunaagiza chakula kutoka nje. Oh no. Vijana wa Afrika tuko tayari twende kulisha bara letu. Viongozi timizeni wajibu. Viongozi wa Afrika unganeni pamoja kutokomeza vifo vinavyotokana na njaa. Les dirigeants africains s'unissent pour éradiquer la mort provoquée par la faim. African leaders unite to eradicate death caused by hunger. African leaders unite for food security, for food sovereignty. Tuungane pamoja.
Asante sana. Kwanza nichukue fursa hii kumshukuru Mheshimiwa Rais Samia Suluhu Hassan kwa kuleta mkutano huu mkubwa hapa Tanzania. Sisi kule Zanzibar tasema kidogo kuhusu experience yetu. Kama mnavyotambua, Zanzibar ni kisiwa, ni sehemu ndogo au visiwa ambavyo vina nafasi ndogo sana katika swala zima la kilimo. Kwa hivyo tukaamua kwa makusudi kwamba sisi shamba letu tulifanya ni bahari inayotuzunguka. Kwa hiyo tukaweka nguvu katika swala zima la uvuvi, ukulima wa mwani na ufugaji wa mazao ya majini. Tunashukuru kwamba mafanikio yameonekana. Kuna vijana wengi sana wamepata ajira katika maeneo hayo. Serikali kwa upande wetu na kwa msaada wa washirika wetu wa maendeleo tumeweza kuwawezesha akina mama hususan katika ukulima wa mwani, na kwa taarifa tu ni kwamba Zanzibar ndio mkulima mkubwa wa mwani katika bara zima la Afrika. Lakini kwenye upande wa uvuvi na upande wa ufugaji wa mazao ya majini pia tumefanya vizuri. Vijana wetu wameweza kuwezeshwa kwa mitaji, kwa teknolojia, na wameweza kufanya miradi mbalimbali inayohusiana na ufugaji wa samaki, ufugaji wa kaa, ufugaji wa tunaita matango bahari siku hizi, na yote haya yameonyesha mafanikio makubwa. Kwa hivyo wakati tunazungumza swala zima la kilimo kwa upana wake, kilimo ni pamoja na ufugaji wa mifugo mbalimbali pamoja na uvuvi ndani yake. Sisi kule Zanzibar tumejikita katika eneo la uchumi wa bahari, na kwa sehemu kubwa sana tumeweza kuzalisha ajira nyingi za vijana wetu. Kwa hivyo sasa tuko tayari ku scale up yale mafanikio tuliyoyapata ili tuweze kuwafanya vijana wengi.
Asante sana, Rais. And I guess he's talked about something that you haven't heard a lot about here. I mean, I haven't been here every day, about fishing. Because Zanzibar is an island, it's a beautiful island, and I think the Africa Food Systems Forum is organizing a trip to Zanzibar sometime today or tomorrow in the days ahead, and he talked about all they're doing around fishing to employ the youth of Zanzibar. I was going to invite His Excellency, the President of Senegal. Unfortunately, he's got a cold, that's why he's wearing the mask. So he cannot speak because he's lost his voice, but he's kindly asked me to invite the Agriculture Minister of the Republic of Senegal to read his speech on his behalf. So please welcome to the stage, Mr. Alain Ndiaye.
Bonjour, Je vais me charger de lire le discours de son Excellence, Monsieur le Président Macky Sall. Donc, je lui prête ma voix pour lire ces termes. Excellence, Madame Samia Suluhu Hassan, Présidente de la République unie de Tanzanie, chères sœurs, chers collègues, Mesdames, Messieurs, chers amis, je vous remercie vivement, Madame la Présidente et chères sœurs, pour votre aimable invitation et votre accueil chaleureux à l'occasion de ce sommet sur les systèmes alimentaires en Afrique. La question est vitale et d'actualité. De tout temps, tout ce qui touche à l'agriculture et à la sécurité alimentaire revêt une priorité de premier ordre. Cela est encore plus évident aujourd'hui pour nos pays confrontés aux effets combinés du changement climatique, de la pandémie de Covid-19 et d'une guerre majeure. Les chiffres parlent d'eux-mêmes. Selon l'estimation des Nations Unies, plus de 750 millions de personnes, dont près de 240 millions d'Africains, vivent aujourd'hui dans l'insécurité alimentaire. La faim en Afrique n'est pas seulement une préoccupation, c'est aussi et surtout un grand paradoxe pour un continent de 1,4 milliard d'habitants et 30 millions de kilomètres carrés, disposant de 60% des terres arables non exploitées de la planète et abondantes en ressources hydriques. Avec un potentiel aussi immense, l'Afrique ne devrait avoir ni faim ni soif. Bien au contraire, elle devrait pouvoir se nourrir et aider à nourrir le monde, au lieu de continuer à importer et pire encore, à dépendre de l'aide pour satisfaire l'essentiel de ses besoins alimentaires. Il y a 20 ans, nos pays avaient pris l'engagement, dans la déclaration de Maputo de juillet 2003, d'allouer au moins 10% du budget national à l'agriculture. La réalisation de cet objectif requiert avant tout un choix volontariste qui joint l'acte à la parole. À titre d'exemple, au Sénégal, nous avons porté à 12% la part de l'agriculture dans le budget général d'investissement et augmenté en 2 ans de 75% le financement de la campagne agricole saisonnière afin d'accélérer notre marche vers la souveraineté alimentaire. Nos progrès sont réels, même si les défis à relever restent encore nombreux. À l'échelle africaine, le Sénégal a organisé en janvier dernier le Dakar agricole en collaboration avec la Banque africaine de développement, après le Dakar 1 en octobre 2015. Dans un contexte de crise mondiale,
kwenye jiji la Dakar ambalo tulikuwa tunafuatilia iliyofanyika mwaka 2015 kuhusu jinsi ya kupambana na njaa. Katika kongamano hilo tulifanya azimio kwamba kwa siku zijazo tutakuwa tunakusanya nguvu zetu pamoja tuweze kukabiliana na matatizo ya njaa na kuleta usalama wa chakula. Kuanzia siku hiyo kuna kuwekezwa, tumewekeza zaidi ya bilioni 72 na pia tunataka kushukuru mashirika kama vile Benki ya Maendeleo ya Afrika ambao pia mwaka 2022 wajumuika mano na kuwekeza kuelekea kwa mambo ya usalama wa chakula. Na tukielekea upande wa mbolea, tunataka katika kipindi cha muda mfupi ujao na muda mrefu tuwe tunawekeza zaidi katika mambo ya mbolea. Tukiangalia, nimefurahi kwanza kwamba Umoja wa Afrika ulimpatia hiyo fursa. Huyu ni Rais anazungumza kutoka waziri wake kwamba kama tunataka kuendeleza uwezo wetu katika usalama wa chakula, lazima tujitolee kwanza, tuanze kufanya utafiti katika sehemu ya ukulima, kwa mfano kuleta vifaa, kutumia teknolojia ya kisasa, ikiwepo mambo ya usafiri. Tuanze kuongeza maeneo ambayo hayajaangaliwa sana, ikijumuisha vyakula ambavyo hatujaweza kuwa tukivikuza. 3, tuangalie jinsi ya kuweka mazao baada ya kuyavuna ili kuepuka hasara zitokanazo na mazao ya kuharibika, na kuhakikisha kwamba tuyafikisha kwenye masoko ya kuyauza. Mwisho, inabidi tuanze sasa kuwapatia fedha ama kuwafadhili wadogo wetu ama watu ambao wako katika sehemu ya chini ya uchumi, kama vile wanawake na vijana, waweze kuendeleza njia zao za ukulima, na pia tuwabadilisha mawazo kuhusu mambo kuhusu kilimo, na mtazamo ibadilike kuhusu kilimo, tuna mtazamo chanya. Leo zaidi ya ilivyokuwa nyuma, tunafaa sasa kuvunje fikra potovu kuhusu mambo ya ukulima. Sasa tuanze kuwa wastahimilivu ili tuweze kufikia malengo haya. Nataka kusema kwamba natakia kila laheri kongamano hili liweze kuisha vizuri. Asante.
One more time, a round of applause for President Macky Sall. Monsieur le Président, merci pour ce discours. And now it is my pleasure to invite the President from the neighborhood, Evariste Ndayishimiye, Président de la République du Burundi. Bienvenue.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Mama Samia, dada yangu. Nakushukuru sana na nawashukuru Watanzania wote kwa mapokezi mazuri mliotufanyia tangu tulipofika hapa. Na nampongeza Mama Samia kwa maandalizi mazuri ya huyu mkutano. Na nawapongeza Watanzania wote. Ni kawaida kutupokea vizuri hapa, tuko nyumbani. Lakini nitawaomba msamaha, nitasema lugha nyingine. Mnajua maua kupendeza lazima muweke rangi nyingi. Ndio sababu na mimi naleta rangi nyingine ya Kifaransa, lakini tukimaliza tutaendelea kuongea, bado niko huko. Excellence Madame Samia Suluhu Hassan, President de la République unie de Tanzanie.
Rais wa Senegal, Makasa, Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya William Ruto, Rais wa Zanzibar Mheshimiwa Rais ambao wamefika hapa kwa zamani wa sasa, itifaki zote zimezingatiwa. Kwanza ningependa kuwashukuru sana, ni washukuru washirika wenzangu, ni washukuru Rais Suluhu Hassan na serikali yake ya Tanzania kwa kuunganisha, na asante kwa kuleta pamoja hapa tuzungumzie kuhusu mabadiliko ya mifumo ya chakula. Na ni muhimu sasa tuwe tayari kutenda. Ni kitu muhimu kwa sisi sote ambao tuko katika hali ngumu ambayo ina changamoto nyingi, kwa mfano vita vilivyoko kule Ulaya, mambo ya kuwa na watu ongezeko la idadi ya watu. Mheshimiwa Rais na Bwana, ukiangalia kauli mbiu ya mwaka huu ambayo ni kutoa ama kurejesha tena, kuongoa na kutenda, pia tuangalie sasa tuangazie kwa sehemu ya mambo ya mazao, mambo ya wanyama wetu ama mifugo, na tuweze pamoja kama Waafrika tupate suluhu ya pamoja. Hatutaki kamwe watu kufa nchini Burundi. Tunafahamu fika jinsi eneo la mambo ya kilimo na chakula na nchi yetu ni ina ekari 27,000 na kitu.
C'est cela qui nous a poussé à étendre nos pensées aux fonctionnaires, aux employés dans le secteur privé, aux commerçants, touristes, etc.
Tungependa kufanya kazi na sekta ya binafsi, mambo ya wageni wale ambao hawako katika sekta ya kulima ama kilimo. Tumeanzisha lengo mpya tangu mwaka 20 kwamba kila mdomo ama kila kinywa kinafaa kulishwa, na kila mkulima anafaa pia auze, na wakulima wanaotumia mali yao ya kifamilia ili kulisha watu wao. Kwenye mfumo mpya tunataka kwamba kama kuna ardhi ambayo inaweza ikatumika kwa kilimo itumike, na ile ambayo inabaki itumike kwa mambo ya mifugo. Watu wanapenda ardhi zao, na kwa mfano nchini Burundi, tunahakikisha kwamba mambo ya pembejeo na mambo ya mbolea iweze kupatikana kwa wakulima wetu. Mtu binafsi hawezi akazalisha hivyo akaweza kufanya ukulima peke yake. Kwa hiyo tumeamua kwamba kuwaweka pamoja kwa makundi, haswa vijana, ili waweze kushirikiana kufanya kilimo chenye ufanisi. Walete pamoja ardhi yao ili waweze kupata mazao. Tunaambia wakulima wetu wadogo waanze kutumia mbinu ndogo za kufanya unyunyizaji ama umwagiliaji maji, Tukija kwenye mambo ya ufugaji, tumeamua tuanzishe uhamasisho wa kuleta mifugo ambao ni bora na kuwasambaza kwa watu wetu, au wanyama ambao ni wastahimilivu kwa hali ya mabadiliko ya tabia nchi na mazingira. Na matokeo yake yameonekana ikiwa mazuri, lakini kuna matatizo mengi. Kwa mfano, matatizo ya kupata nishati, na haya matatizo ya kupata nishati yamekuwa mazito kwa nchi yetu. Kwenda mbele, tunaona sisi kwamba vyakula vya kimsingi nchini Burundi kama vile maragwe, mahindi, mboga, matunda, mboga na matunda, mihogo. Lakini takwimu zinaonyesha kwamba kipindi cha kuanzia mwaka 2020 hatujaweza kuagiza vitu kama vile vitunguu, viazi, kwa sababu tunavipata nyumbani. Na hiyo ni
hapa Watanzania wanaelewa sana.
Na tukifanya hivyo ni kwamba tutaweza kuuza mambo ya
bon voisinage, ujirani mwema. Ukienda Manyovu utakuta sokoni kuna Warundi na Watanzania. Ukiingia Makamba unakuta Watanzania na Warundi wote wako pamoja. Sijue wanafanya vipi, unakuta shilingi za Tanzania zinatumika Burundi na hela za Burundi zinatumika Tanzania. Hiyo ni ujirani mwema. Asante sana. Pour augmenter la production agricole, les solutions sont prêtes à être portées, sont peut-être à la portée de la main. Il y a des pays qui ont encore d'énormes terres cultivables, mais pas assez d'investisseurs ou de main-d'œuvre engagés dans le secteur agricole. J'estime que la promotion des investissements d'autres Africains pourrait faire la différence. Beaucoup de mes compatriotes seraient intéressés à l'idée d'investir dans l'agriculture ou de travailler dans ce domaine dans des pays qui seraient prêts à expérimenter leur savoir-faire. J'imagine aussi qu'il y a des Africains qui tenteraient l'aventure si l'opportunité leur était offerte. Certains pays sont en train d'expérimenter le savoir-faire burundais en matière de fabrication de fertilisants organo-minéraux. Nous nous réjouissons que il y a un investisseur burundais qui est venu investir ici en Tanzanie dans le cadre de production de fertilisants organo-minéraux. Si nous voulons réussir notre combat contre la sous-alimentation ou l'alimentation déséquilibrée, nous devons promouvoir la complémentarité dans la technologie agricole et d'élevage, être plus créatifs et activer la solidarité légendaire des Africains et s'affranchir du devoir de travailler la terre. Il arrivait même que les ingénieurs agronomiques n'est même pas en champ d'hectares de culture. Mais actuellement, ils sont nombreux à montrer l'exemple dans leur communauté d'origine et l'impact est immense. Je peux vous témoigner ici que dans mon pays, un phénomène qui ne s'était jamais observé se manifeste. Alors qu'on était habitué à l'exode rural, aujourd'hui c'est l'inverse.
Yani uhamihaji wa vijana kutoka vijijini kuelekea miji. Sasa tunafaa tuanzishe miradi ya kilimo ili iweze kuwavutia vijana hawa waweze kufanya shughuli kazi. Hivyo na bwana, tunafaa tubadilishe mtazamo wetu kwa mambo ya uchumi kuelekea mwaka wa 2060, na ninawahimiza washirika wetu na wadau wetu wa maendeleo, haswa Benki ya Maendeleo ya Afrika, na washukuru kwa kuangalia mambo ya mifugo, kwa mfano kilimo cha nyama ya nguruwe, mambo ya kilimo cha kuku, ufugaji wa kuku na mambo mengine, na pia kuleta sehemu ya pili ni kuangalia kuleta matumizi ya vifaa, matrekta na vifaa, na pia unyunyizaji ama umwagiliaji maji. 3, usindikaji na kuongeza thamani mazao kabla ya kuyasafirisha nje. Hivyo na bwana, ningependa kuita mashirika yote waweze kufanya ubia, yaani ushirikiaji wa jamii na miradi ya ubia, na kusaidia umma wetu. Na ningependa tuangalie mambo ya forodha ya mipakani, tuondoe ili tufanye usafiri wa watu wetu kwa njia ya urahisi. Mabadiliko haya yataleta urahisi hata kutoka upande wa wadau wetu.
Namuona mzee Kikwete ni yeye alinifundisha na hiki Kiswahili kidogo unasikia. Nafurahi sana kumuona tena. Asante sana.
Asante sana Rais Ndayishimiye. Tafadhali tumpe makofi tena. Thank you so much. Na pole Mheshimiwa Rais, niliambiwa kwamba ungezungumza ukiwa umekaa hapo. Kwa hivyo kwa Rais Ruto, Dr. Ruto, tafadhali unaweza ukazungumza kama ulipokaa hapo. And so now it's my pleasure to invite His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya.
Asante. Thank you. Shukrani sana Larry. Kwanza nataka nichukue nafasi hii nimshukuru Mheshimiwa Samia Suluhu Hassan, Rais wa Muungano wa Tanzania, kwa kutukaribisha. Namshukuru ndugu yangu Evariste Ndayishimiye na pia ndugu yangu Rais Mwinyi na wote ambao mliofika katika kikao hiki. Mtanisamehe Kiswahili changu si kizuri sana, lakini naona nitang'ang'ana tu. Kwanza nataka nishukuru Mheshimiwa Rais kwa kuchukua nafasi na kuungana nasi katika kongamano kubwa la Climate Change Summit ambayo ilikuwa Nairobi. Na wakati ulikuwa pale ulinipatia maagizo ya kwamba nije katika mkutano huu. Na nimeambiwa ya kwamba maagizo ni instructions. Kwa hivyo sikuwa na la ziada ila nifike. Nyinyi majirani zetu mkitaka kutuangamiza mnasema tuongee Kiswahili. Na ndio hapo tunapata matatizo. Lakini nimesikiza taarifa yako Mheshimiwa Rais kwa makini sana na kufuatilia yale mmetueleza. Na pale pia nikisikiza nikapata msamiati wa Kiswahili katikati pale. Kwanza nikapata kujua ya kwamba tunaweza kuchochea kilimo biashara. Kule kwetu uchochezi sana ni wanasiasa wanafanya uchochezi. Lakini nimeona kumbe uchochezi pia uko na positive ya kwamba unaweza kuchochea kitu kizuri na ikaendelea. Pale pia nimepata kuelewa kwamba kuna mabadiliko ya hewa. Nilikuwa nafikiri ni mabadiliko ya mazingira. So hapo nimepata kuelewa, sasa nitaifuatilia vizuri. Kwa sababu wakati mmoja nilisema mabadiliko ya mazingara. Sasa jamaa mmoja kutoka Tanzania akaniambia mazingara ni mambo mengine. Yanakaribiana na uchawi sijui na kuelekea upande hiyo. Lakini pia nikasikia umetueleza na nakubaliana na wewe 100%. Kwa muda mrefu tumekuwa walalamikaji. Nimesikia hapo. Lakini niko na malalamiko kidogo. Wacha niseme kwamba pia nimesikia kwa taarifa yako umerudia azimio. Hao watu walikuwa na azimio. Sasa nikapata kidogo wasiwasi kwa sababu kule kwetu azimio ni mambo mengine. Azimio ni chama ya upinzani kuna fujo kweli. Lakini hata hivyo nimeelewa tena kwamba azimio kumbe yanaweza kuwa ni mambo mazuri ya makubaliano. Alafu mwisho wacha nimsaidie, Kiswahili changu ni bora kuliko ya Larry, mtu wa kutoka kijiji yangu huko nyumbani. Amesema hapo ya kwamba mnatuzungumzia na Kiswahili Kiingereza ambayo sio kizuri, na sisi tunaongelesha Kiswahili ambazo sio kizuri. Vile alikuwa anataka kusema ni kwamba mnatuzungumzia na Kiswahili sanifu, na sisi tunawazungumza. Happy to participate in this very important forum around the most important subject of our time, about food. In fact, I will tell you that the last campaigns in Kenya were centered around food. The cost of food, the cost of living is in proper context because it speaks to a very important subject, not just globally, not just regionally. Even in Kenya, it's a very important subject. And it is an important subject because without many things, you can live without technology, you can fail to have airtime and many other things. But food is something very emotive.
And therefore, it is important as leaders working with all the other stakeholders to think, to plan, and to do everything possible to make sure we get it right. And this forum, therefore, brings in context the importance of the subject around food and food systems. And I want to just say two things, because Mama Samia has spoken for almost all of us, and my colleagues also have spoken to the issues in the best way possible. Let me just say two things. There are two things that are important from where I sit. Number one is how do we increase productivity? And number two, how do we bring youth into the equation? I think those two issues, encapsulates what I think should inform our thinking going forward. About productivity, let me say three things about productivity. How do we increase our productivity? How do we assist our farmers to produce more and to produce much more efficiently? Number one, fertilizer and seed. The provision of fertilizer and seed is very important. It must be accessible, it must be affordable, and it must be available. What we did in Kenya this year is that we registered 5 million farmers, and we distributed fertilizer online so that we eliminate brokers, we eliminate conmen, we eliminate people, middlemen, who normally should change farmers, and farmers end up with fertilizer that is too expensive. And because of what we did, we reduced the cost of fertilizer from about $50 a ton to less than $20 a ton. You will speak with your colleagues in Kenya across, and they will tell you that's what we did. And because of that, we increased our fertilizer uptake in just the last season alone. And I have a witness here because Yara, who spoke earlier, Yara International, were amongst our 4 suppliers who supplied the fertilizer to us. That's number one. And let me tell you the results. Last year, we projected to harvest 44 million bags. Because of the intervention around seed and fertilizer, our projection this year is that we will move from 44 million to 61 million bags of maize alone. That is what the correct seed, the correct fertilizer, and affordable fertilizer and accessible fertilizer and seed will do to our farming. Because we just need to be practical about how we want to take this forward. And let me say something about the correct fertilizer. We've been using DAP in Kenya for a long time. This year, I made a policy decision that we are not going to allow any importation of DAP into Kenya. And that is what we did. So we imported the fertilizer which our scientists assessed our soils and told us these are the nutrients that are lacking in your soil, these are the correct nutrients. We did formulation of fertilizer that we are using for our farmers. Our farmers made noise, but I am telling you today, they are the happiest people. They are the ones who are telling us, you gave us the right fertilizer. That's number one. Number two is to reduce post-harvest losses. we lose between 30 and 35, maybe sometimes even 40% of what we produce because of poor storage, lack of transport, lack of infrastructure for drying, and many other things. So, what are we doing? We're doing three things. Number one, to reduce the loss of milk, we are distributing 650 milk coolers around Kenya to make sure that our farmers can get to a milk cooler within half an hour of them milking, so that we can improve the quality of our milk and we can reduce losses from milk because of milk going to waste, number one. Number two, we're investing close to $30 million to make sure that our farmers have dryers, especially in the grain areas. And number three, we are doing market infrastructure. We're building around 400 markets around Kenya, and we are building another 50 county aggregation and industrial parks where you have storage, including cold rooms, and where you can add value to some of your produce so that we not only save on post-harvest losses because of poor storage or lack of cold room, but we also add value and take it forward. Again, that increases our productivity and our production because we eliminate post-harvest losses. And finally, and I'm saying this just so that I don't take a lot of your time. We are working on how, and I really liked what President Suluhu said, that government is careful to make sure that farmers have affordable financing or accessible, affordable credit. The same way, Mama Suluhu, you told us in your statement that Tanzania is making sure that farmers have access to credit at below 10%. In fact, you told us 9%. That is exactly what we are doing in Kenya. In fact, we are adding 10 billion shillings to Agricultural Finance Corporation to make sure that farmers have seasonal credit that they can use to expand their productivity. And finally, and this is maybe unique to Kenya, because it's just good to tell you as our neighbors, many of you don't know that 85% of Kenya is arid and semi-arid. So when my sister from UAE was speaking, I was paying very keen attention, because what she's saying is partly what we are experiencing. And that is why in Kenya, we are working with Afri-Exim Bank, we are working with the World Bank and other partners to build 100 mega dams, 1,000 micro dams for water storage, because the future rains are going to be very unpredictable. And sometimes we confuse rain for water. We need water to grow food. We don't need rain. Let me say that again. I said we need water to grow food. It is not rain we are looking for. So sometimes we get confused and wait for the rain instead of looking for the water. So I think that is as far as that goes. Let me finally talk about the young people. There is no future in agriculture unless we bring the young people on board. The average age of a farmer in Kenya is about 60 years. So, and when I became Minister for Agriculture, and I had a discussion with my peers then, the logo for the Ministry of Agriculture at that time was an old woman with ile jembe, the hoe, ile jembe. That was the logo of the Ministry of Agriculture. explain to me how young people are going to have a different perception as a farmer if the logo of the Ministry of Agriculture is an old woman na jembe ameweka hapa kwa mgongo. That is how we changed. Tukabadilisha ile logo, tukaweka hapo greenhouse na irrigation infrastructure. Just, we need to create a new narrative around agriculture for us to bring young people on board. And let me say two things that I think of my head is, number one, technology. Technology will bring the young people into agriculture. That is why my dear sister from UAE said, a young person can be an agroeconomist or agrotechnologist, but not a farmer. But it's the same thing, right? So, technology. How have we brought technology into the agricultural equation? Number one, I told you we registered all our farmers and we use technology to distribute our fertilizer, number one. Number two, today we are using e-Citizen, a government platform, digital platform, to disseminate agricultural extension service. So, because you can only do the correct farming if you have the correct information. And number three, we are using technology also for purposes of meteorology and early warning. I find many farmers in rural Kenya today, in fact, wanatumia neno la Kiswahili, yule mtu wa magician, ule wa simu, anasema itanyesha next week. That is how technology is helping inform farmers to plan themselves how to take this forward. And finally, mechanization is going to recruit young people into agriculture. I see it with my own children. Yeah. 45% of our agriculture is mechanized. We still have a whole 55% mechanization to do. And that is scope that we can use to recruit the young people of our continent into the agriculture space. Let me conclude by saying one final thing. The billionaires of the future, according to African Development Bank, will not be people in Google and all the other spaces. They will be people in agriculture. So, if you want to be a rich man in future, you have to begin to go to the right corner. Start being a farmer. And I am telling you from experience because I am one of them. So, mujipange hapo kwa kilimo kama unatafuta pesa huko mbele. Hapo kwa kilimo ndio mabilionea watakuwa tukisonga mbele. Na kwa sababu hapo kwa kilimo ndio kutakuwa na mabilionea, pia mjue vile Mama Samia alivyosema, I think they say thuluthi mbili, 65% ya ardhi ya kilimo, arable and uncultivated land, iko katika bara letu la Afrika. Therefore, we have the greatest potential in this continent, in the agricultural space, and we should take advantage of it. Kwanza nyinyi ndugu zetu wa Tanzania, mko na mvua nyingi kutuliko sisi wa Kenya. nyinyi ndio mungekuwa mnazalisha chakula kingi ya East Africa. Na mnafanya bidii, ni vizuri sana, mnafanya bidii. Tunatumia chakula kingi kutoka Tanzania kule Kenya. Lakini kuna watu